is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield myself such time as I might consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm discouraged to come to the floor today as we squander the valuable time of this body arguing over a pointless resolution that will accomplish nothing for the people of America, whether it's accepted or rejected. Nothing. So let's be clear about what this resolution does and does not do. We are not arguing today over whether this body will or will not adopt a tax on carbon emissions. This resolution, and I'm quoting, expresses the sense of Congress about a carbon tax. So what we are trying to achieve apparently this morning is a discussion of the mood of Congress. Well, we should hold some hearings about the mood of Congress, because I would submit that it's not a very pleasant time to be working on Capitol Hill. But nothing in this exercise is going to have anything to do with carbon tax. This is better suited to a high school debate than it is to the United States House of Representatives. There are plenty of people across the country who need real help and real action from this Congress. Every day, American families, people far from this building, far from this city, they're struggling with real problems and real challenges. They feel their standard of living has not improved. They want to feel some security that their jobs will stick around. How about holding some hearings on pensions? Security that they can count on health insurance? Security that one day they'll be able to retire with dignity? Security that they will be able to launch their kids into a successful and happy life. So on this Thursday morning, the Republican leadership has brought up a sense of the mood of Congress on carbon. We could choose to bring forward legislation that actually would help American families today. We could help them meet many of the challenges that they have. Instead, we're using our precious remaining legislative days to hold an amateur hour on a debate about something that's not going to happen. This is a vacuous gesture, empty in every form. It's a political stunt. It's not worthy of the time or the attention of this body. When I go home and talk to my constituents and my neighbors, they want to hear what I, along with the members of this chamber, intend to do to ensure that their hard work still translates into a decent life. Something around us is clearly out of step. There's a growing anxiety around the country that is bigger than our political differences and divide. It's a building sense that at some point when we all perhaps were not looking, the system became stacked against ordinary people. The rules changed, and hard work isn't enough any longer to guarantee that you can make it in America. The unemployment rate for sure is low, but 65% of Americans worry about having enough money to pay their bills. And yes, we can say this morning that downward pressure on wages essentially has kept those wages flat for the American people, despite the fact that the unemployment rate is advertised at about 4%. So 1 in 5 Americans has more credit card debt than emergency savings. Less than 40% of the people in this country have enough savings to cover a $1,000 emergency room visit, or for that matter, car repair. It's plain to see in my own district. We've seen the challenges that the people back in Western Massachusetts face every single day. Despite the talk of growth in the stock market, which, by the way, has been going up since October of 2009, that their salaries have barely moved. Home prices have gone up by 9% in our market last year. A gallon of gas costs 28% more than last year. Electricity bills in Massachusetts are up 21% over last year. Child care, saving for college, and again, retirement and pensions, health care premiums, Mr. Speaker, people are having trouble keeping up. Teachers have to pick up jobs waiting on tables or driving for Uber. Families need to juggle multiple jobs just to get by. But today's economy apparently isn't hard on the top 1% in America. Last year, the average bonus on Wall Street, and listen to this number, average, $185,000. It rose 17% after our Republican colleagues passed their tax bill last year. That's 3 times what most American families bring home in an entire year. It seems like things used to be easier. And you know why? Because they were easier. Americans born in the 1940s had a 92% chance of earning a higher income than their parents had at age 30. Those born in the 1980s have a 50% chance of doing so. And the tax bill that Republicans passed last year, without a single hearing in all of 51 days, and not, incidentally, one Democratic vote, will make things substantially worse for these families. People don't really need to hear these statistics. Intuitively, they know what's happened. 3 out of 4 Americans are not confident that their children will grow up to be better off than they were, and they have every right to be worried. Health care used to be easier to afford. The new Republican tax law raised premiums by 15% and weakened protections for millions of Americans with pre-existing conditions. Then Republicans wanted to slash $500 billion out of the Medicare program so that many of our family members who depend on it will even be more challenged. What have families gotten from the Republicans on health care? Higher deductibles, higher costs, and plans that cover much less. The cost of a 4-year degree at a public college has doubled since 1996. The basic ticket into the middle class is out of reach for too many of our young people today. And the ones who do manage to scrape by far too often accumulate debt that makes home ownership or starting a family a long way off. Other family budget essentials just keep climbing too. As I noted, gas prices are up 27% from last year. Child care costs rose for the 5th year in a row. This week, an infant with child care at a daycare center, $211. Mr. Speaker, there are concrete actions that we might take right here in this chamber to support these families. We could spend today working on college affordability. How about some pension hearings to talk about what's happening in the central states, as well as the challenges that retirement faces for the American family? And how do we help more people afford that first home? Or how to help their parents once again prepare for a secure retirement? We are nearly out of time to get things done in Congress. We're down to less than 25 legislative days before the midterm elections. So if we plan to do anything about the pressing issues facing Americans, this is the time to step it up. But instead of trying to broker solutions or offer ideas, the Republican leadership has opted to hold a shadow debate. It doesn't matter how this vote turns out. Let me repeat that. It doesn't matter how this vote turns out. The outcome's going to be identical. Nothing on this issue will change because of what we're doing this morning. Nothing will change. That contentment with the status quo may be fine for my Republican colleagues, but it's not going to help the families that I represent. In fact, it pretty much reinforces their doubts about the very work of Congress. Listen, if you want to debate a carbon tax, let's hold some hearings. Let's hold some discussions about a carbon tax. Let's find out what it would mean for the economy. We might use that moment to test what offshore drilling does for oil as part of the carbon tax discussion, or for the families in western Massachusetts. Let's find out what the impact would be if we have fossil fuel emissions reduced on our economic growth. Let's think strategically about how it might affect our geopolitics. And if you want to have this debate, then let's have a real debate through hearings in the regular order. This resolution is really meaningless. The outcome will be nothing, no matter what the final vote turns out to be. It's a waste of all of our time this morning, and we ought to be devoting that time to meeting the challenges that the American people expect us to meet, and I reserve the balance of